There's a lot of places on an evaluation that people can fudge the numbers. I'll go through the ones that I see that have the biggest impact and the ones I see most readily. Rents. Okay. Rents is probably the biggest driver of your return on investment. I mean, I'm assuming they're not fudging the purchase price, right? That's not going to change on you, right? Most of the time. So rents, that rental income is a huge driver, right? You know, at the end of the day, we're talking about something delivering, call it about $100 a month of cash flow. Well, if they go overly aggressive and turn that $100 a month of cash flow and maybe get too aggressive and turn it, you know, $50 higher on the rent really than what they can perform for you, that can have a significant impact on your return on investment, right? That could jump your return on investment 5% higher or 5% lower, right? So make sure that you're understanding how they're getting their rents. One thing to look at is don't just take the rent number that they put on the evaluation for you. Ask them how they're seeing that, how they substantiating that, right? So for JWB and for all of you who are clients already, when you get to buy a JWB property, you also get to look at the map and to see all the JWB properties that we currently have under management and the actual rents for those properties, right? So those are called rental comparables. And so if you're working with a company that manages 4,000 properties like we do, it's really easy for us to show those comparables. Not every property, there's no other property management in Jacksonville that has 4,000 single family rentals. So, you know, you're not generally going to be able to get that. But there are other ways for property management companies to be able to document to you how they're getting to that rent. So don't just take the number they have on the evaluation, go and see the data behind it. And it all comes down to comparable rental properties in the area that were just rented, be able to do that. Other places that I see just blatantly abused when it comes to, you know, numbers not lining up is maintenance and vacancy rates. So, you know, in order to actually track your maintenance and vacancy costs, you have to have a large portfolio and you have to have a really robust system to be able to do. So I don't know another turnkey company out there that actually tracks their maintenance and vacancy rates for their properties that they sell. I do not know of another property management company that tracks it as well. I don't know anybody else who does. Part of the reason is because it takes a robust system and it takes a large client list to do it. But the other overwhelming reason is that it is much easier for a turnkey company to sell a property and just use industry standards of whatever they think maintenance and vacancy would be. Because if you do that, then your returns are probably going to be better than if you had actually tracked your maintenance and your vacancy costs for owners. You would probably put a whole lot of time and effort and work into tracking something that ultimately your maintenance and vacancy costs would be higher, the estimated returns would be lower. So there's not a real incentive for turnkey companies or property management companies to do that. Property management companies can pretty much just write it off the board because they weren't there when you bought the property from them. So if you have high maintenance costs, they're going to say, well, listen, it's not my problem. I didn't renovate the house for you, right? You brought the property to us. It had damages coming in. So our hands are clean from this. So maintenance and vacancy costs, something else to look at. I don't have a great way for you to just, you know, fact check whatever maintenance and vacancy costs people are going to tell you, because nobody else has the type of reporting that we do at JWB. Right? JWB, we actually have tracked over 2,000 properties that our clients have bought since 2011. So we know exactly what the maintenance and the vacancy costs are. What you'll typically see are maintenance and vacancy rates industry standard, somewhere around 5% to 7% of the gross rents for both of them. So call it 10 to 12% total of the gross rents every year as a maintenance and vacancy cost. But I am telling you, I don't have confidence that another turnkey company can actually hit those numbers because I've never seen it. Right? I just have never seen it. So watch out there. If it were me and I was using another company's evaluation and they put 5% for vacancy costs and 7% for maintenance costs, I would just buffer it up. I would go higher. One thing to watch out for is a lot of turnkey companies, they'll put it on the evaluation that like it's 5% for vacancy costs, 7% for maintenance or whatever the number is. But if you actually look at the return on investment calculation, it isn't included there. That's another trick that other turnkey companies use. So pay very much attention there. Again, one swing, going from 5% or to 10% can have a massive swing on your overall return on investment. Another thing is tenant placement fees. So tenant placement fees are, of course, what the property management company charges when they put a new resident in your home. For some reason, a lot of turnkey companies don't include this in the return on investment calculation as well, which makes absolutely no sense because your property management company is going to charge that. But, you know, I don't know. I can't even justify that. So make sure that your tenant placement fees are included there. Another thing that other property management companies do is they will, if the lease is for, let's say if the average duration of resident stay is 4 years for their company, which would be really high for a property management company, but let's just say that it is, they may take your total your total tenant placement fee and divide it by 4. And so it would only be 25% of that tenant placement fee in year 1. Now, I'm not saying this is a terrible thing to do because, listen, over time, you're kind of amortizing that tenant placement fee over 4 years. But if you're trying to compare apples to apples to a JWB property versus another turnkey evaluation, know that JWB is counting the full brunt, 100% of the tenant placement fees when we're looking at our return on investment calculation. So if you're looking at it and you're like, well, geez, this other company is 1% higher return on investment, many times we could look at the property evaluation with JWB and say, yeah, if you were comparing apples to apples, they're not counting this, they're not counting that. So just understand whether or not they are counting tenant placement fees and whether or not they're counting the full amount or if they're taking a percentage of that.